Welcome to another episode of the Not Another Yoga Class podcast and LinkedIn Live series. Today, we have a fantastic episode because we've got my mate, Dan Glyde, and we're going to be unpacking that big buzzword, burnout. So, Dan, could you please give us a short intro about you, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dan, as you said. I'm Jamie's mate, as he said. I currently work as a men's coach. So I work one-on-one with men who are either approaching burnout or recovering from burnout, pretty much, Jamie. They're busy business owners, leaders, and they come to me because they want their personal life to match the success they have in their professional life. So they want better relationships. They want to look after themselves and prioritize themselves and do so guilt-free, because it's tough, isn't it? Because, you know, we have so many responsibilities and so many people that rely on us. And it's kind of, I help them switch that mindset to realize that prioritizing themselves and their well-being and their relationships actually benefits everybody, and it benefits all the people around. So that's what I do currently. I got here precisely because I burnt out in my previous career. I used to work in sports broadcasting. I worked for the BBC.
And that's so cool. I still love it. I mean, as a football fan. Well, I used to be a football fan before this season, but as a football fan, it is really cool when I meet someone that works in sports broadcasting, especially doing what you did. So yeah,
it was cool, Jamie. It was an immense career. I got to work with some amazing people. I got to meet some of my heroes. I got to work on Olympics, Commonwealth Games, Open Golf, Six Nations, Wimbledon, FA Cup, you name it, Premier League football matches. It was
those heroes.
It was fantastic. Those heroes. Well, my favourite person to have worked with was Ian Wright.
Oh, I bet he's great, isn't he?
He's so much fun, Jamie. So much fun and so knowledgeable. He really knows the game of football inside out and back to front. And some of the people you work with don't particularly. They've just got what we used to call at the BBC a good Aston. So that's a name caption. Right. So like if you've got England captain under your name, that's a good Aston. It doesn't necessarily mean you know what you're talking about. But yeah, Righty was really good fun to work with. So never took much too seriously, always had a laugh. But when it came to it, he was able to pick things out of games that I wouldn't have spotted as not an expert. It was always good fun. So yeah, working with him was great.
Amazing. But I imagine quite a demanding job, right?
Yes, it is, James. See, if you imagine, it's long hours, it's unsociable hours, it's all weekend work, evening work. That's when all the sports events are. It can be long days. We used to do 10-hour shifts. I used to do a 3-hour commute as well. I used to live in Leeds and work in Salford. So driving up over the M62 every day, which wasn't always fun. Yeah, it is. It's very demanding, and working in a live environment, Jamie, is very demanding. It's very stressful. There's a lot of pressure. I always used to remind everyone that it's not life or death to try and take the pressure off people, because it's just telly or it's only live video. It doesn't matter. But you want to do your best. So you put yourself under lots of pressure because you don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I imagine that with something like live television as well, there's more that could go wrong than you could celebrate for going right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a ton of it. And I guess as a viewer, you don't, unless it goes wrong, you don't notice. And that's what we always used to say. You know, there are things we'd really analyze and look at afterwards. I used to say to people, it was all right on air. The viewer didn't know. You know, there's sometimes everything would go crazy in the gallery because a graphic didn't fire or the sound went a bit awry, and we'd all be going, oh! You've got no idea, because the people there, they're world class, Jamie. The engineers and the technical people, they are the very best at what they do. So, you know, as a producer and director, they would always make me look good, because if I forgot things, they would do it anyway. And yeah, it was where I really learned that if you look after people, they look after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's when so much is, I guess, in most situations where you've got a hierarchy in employment, there's not as much of a dependency on your perceived performance as there was with that situation, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much a team game, making telly. Radio is different. You can do radio pretty much all on your own, which has its pluses and its minuses. But TV is definitely a team game. And I was so glad when I got to the point where I was doing, directing programs on national television and doing live FA Cup matches and things like that. Because of how I treated people on my way up, they looked after me when I was in that hot seat. Because there were times where you forgot things. There were times where you forgot to call things. And the graphics operators, the sound engineers, all people I'd worked with for years, made me look good.
Yeah. So tell me about when it got to that point where things started to turn, where you really started to experience those symptoms of burnout.
Well, it was incremental, Jamie, right? There wasn't a turning point, and there wasn't a point where I suddenly went, oh my God, I'm feeling terrible, and I hadn't noticed it. So I come from the masculine school of push on through, show no weakness, internalize everything. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I went to that school.
Yeah, so that's what I did. So it wasn't the job so much as my mindset that was the problem, Jamie, right? So I developed into a people pleaser. I'd never been that way as a youngster, but I developed into one because I thought that was how to get ahead. So I said yes to everything. I put my hands up to all the overtime, all the opportunities. I used to work weeks on end without a day off. I'd do stupid things like work a late shift, go home, have 2 hours kit, get up, come in and do an early shift. And that's just not sustainable, because the other thing I didn't do was I didn't look after myself. Physically, yes, because I've always played sport, Jamie. So I've always wanted to be fit. I've always wanted good cardiovascular fitness so I can play football and so I could go swimming, open water swimming. So physically, I'd always looked after myself. But it was mentally and emotionally where I was neglecting myself. I come from the school of bury it, repress it, escape it, avoid it. Your feelings have got nothing to tell you, then they're no good to you. So that's what I did for years. And of course, that catches up with you eventually. And I had nothing in my life to build mental strength. So my mental health fell through the floor. But I thought it was normal, Jamie. So I probably had anxiety for about 10 years. And I thought it was normal. I thought, well, here I am in a very competitive environment where we have a high-powered career. I'm getting to work with the world's best. Yeah, it's going to be stressful. It's going to cause me anxiety. But it didn't have to be that way. And actually for the last few years of my career, when I decided it was no longer for me, so I stopped caring, and actually I started drawing strong boundaries. I started saying no to things. My career really took off, and I started doing it properly. My value went through the roof, and actually opportunities that I've been striving for and pushing for and going after for years just dropped in my lap because I stepped into my power. I started looking after and prioritizing myself, and therefore my value, if you think of supply and demand in economics, my value in the department went up. But yeah, I think so. The first thing that made me realize that something was seriously wrong was a massive panic attack one day sat on my doorstep. I thought I was going to die, Jamie. My heart was trying to leap out of my chest. I couldn't breathe. And it was only because I had the wherewithal to think, right, I don't want my wife or my son to find me dead on the doorstep. I need to ring an ambulance. So I took a couple of big, deep breaths into my belly to calm myself down to ring an ambulance. And the symptoms all went away. The clammy hands went and my breathing went back to normal. And that was when I went, right, I need to have a good look at things here. And I looked, at that point, I took a bit of time out and I looked back at what I'd been doing and how I'd been doing it. And I was amazed I'd got this far, to be honest. Because, yeah, I remember going to the doctors once, right, during one of many bouts of insomnia. And the doctor said to me, have you got any stress in your life? I thought, I get paid for watching sport, doc. Stress? No, I don't have any stress in my life, mate. I'm just going to push on through because I'm a tough bloke, right? And that should have been a signal, Jamie, right? I couldn't sleep. I used to have it for weeks on end. I'd still get up, drink 4 pints of Red Bull, go to work, do the 10-hour shift, come back, not sleep again. Crazy. I imagine it's just because of my physical fitness that I did manage to carry on for so long.
I think that this unawareness of stress and actually what stress feels like is a massive problem.
Yeah.
Someone said to me when I was going through a really, really stressful period, and I didn't think I was stressed. Are you clenching your jaw? And in that moment, my jaw was so sore from clenching it so hard that I was like, well, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
guess
I've
this
got stuff to deal with. I've got things to do. You know, I've got responsibilities. So
Yeah.
I've got a bit of stress. And mine's my shoulders too.
Yeah.
Jaw's one of mine. And sometimes I see it on calls. I can see they're leaning up by my ears, and I'm like, whoa, hang on, mate, relax, let go of that tension.
I mean, it's no surprise you can't sleep when you're up like this, right? It's because you're almost shaking sometimes.
Yeah, and your mind goes at 100 miles an hour, doesn't it? From one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. I remember after I burnt out and I took a bit of time off and I started rebuilding my life. And I can't remember whose book it was I read about how to kind of slow your thinking down. And I just thought that can't happen. There's no way I can how can I do anything about that? But you can. And now my mind doesn't work in that way at all. But you're right. And I think at the time, what I didn't have was anybody reflecting back to me what I was doing wrong. Anyone reflecting back to me that empty feeling, that nervousness, that feeling of dread constantly, that's not normal. You know, stress and anxiety is normal. We're meant to have it. It motivates us. It gets us to do things. Yeah, being under pressure is normal. Of course it is. But it's when it's chronic, Jamie. And that's what nobody ever pointed out to me. Or, you know, there was nothing around me for me to learn that. And the organization I worked for didn't provide anything to make me say, hang on a minute, I need to stop here because this isn't right. This chronic nature of the stress and anxiety I'm going through, this isn't right. And I think that's why I just kept pushing on through, because I thought this is normal. It's okay. I'll have another coffee. I'll have another few beers tonight. I'll do whatever I have to keep going, because that's what it's all about. Because that's how I succeed.
Do you think that the employer was almost normalizing that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you work for BBC Sport, Jamie, there's an unwritten rule that you go above and beyond, because there are 1,000 people that would step into your shoes tomorrow. So and don't get me wrong, it is a privilege to do that job. It is. It absolutely is. But you then get exploited. Now, I don't think anybody ever sits out, like an evil Bond villain and goes, right, let's exploit the staff. But when you're a publicly funded organization that's constantly trying to deliver more for less, people get exploited. Everybody in that place works above their pay grade. Everybody, from researchers to executives, we are all doing way more than we ought to. But we want to. We're keen. We're ambitious, driven people. We want to make the best quality television in the world. So we do push ourselves. But what there isn't is there's nobody there teaching you what resilience means, how to look after yourself, how to prioritize yourself. And if you don't do that for yourself, then you will break down. Now, I went back to work there during the Olympics. I still do go and work for the BBC occasionally because I love the work. And, the Olympics, what a fabulous event to work on. And seeing all my former colleagues, Jamie, all pale, overweight, sunken eyes, I just thought, oh, my God, 5 years ago, that was me.
Yeah, it's scary. So I guess taking some of the lessons that you've learned here and understanding the causes of burnout and the solutions that can help pull people out of it, what would you suggest to employers that are watching this podcast, about some of the things that they can do? It seems like a two-step thing. It seems like awareness and then some insight solution.
Yeah, it's got to be proactive, Jamie, right? You've got to get on the front foot with this stuff. You've got to deliberately look after your staff, not wait for them to come to you and go, oh, God, I'm in bits here. You need to, have things in place so you can spot when these things are happening. Nobody ever said to me, Dan, are you all right? Ever. Yeah. Nobody, ever. And I was not all right, Jamie. The thing is, on the surface, I looked all right because I masked. I played a good game. But had anybody just delved a little bit deeper, asked me a couple of powerful questions, they'd have known I was in trouble. Just how's your sleep? How's your eating? What do you do to rest and recover, Dan? I never did anything to rest and recover. There was no rest and recuperation in my routine at all. None. And if somebody had have asked me that, and I'd have said, no, I don't need any, I'll just keep going. Ding, there's a problem here. So yeah, it needs to be proactive. But also, you then need something you can refer someone to. And it needs to be personalized because everybody is different. Some people might need counseling or therapy. Some people might need physical help. Some people might need emotional help. So you've got to have that wide range and personalized bespoke programs for people to give them genuine, proper support. Because it's different for everybody. We're all burning out for different reasons. Some of us, it's because we've got young children or, like me, I needed emotional support. I needed support to help face my emotions, process my feelings, understand them. This is where the build-up was for me, Jamie, because I wasn't looking at that stuff. I lacked self-awareness and emotional intelligence. That's what I needed. Some people, it's going to be, physical. They need somebody, a personal trainer. They need somebody who's going to help them get physically fit and move and do strength training and cardiovascular work. I didn't need that. I had all that. What I needed was help with my mental strength. Really, was practices in my life so that I could do the 10-hour days. So I could work on an Olympics and do 3 weeks without a day off because I was at 100%. My battery was fully charged. Instead, I would be going to these events at 25%, Jamie. So at the end of the 3 weeks, my battery's on 1%, like it says on your phone. And so, yeah, it needs to be proactive, and then it needs to be a proper personalized program for people, not ticking boxes, not, oh, right, yeah, we got run club on a Wednesdays, that's well-being sorted, and we put some oranges out at reception, that's well-being sorted. It needs, you can't just run people into the floor. It's it won't help the business and it won't help the people.
I mean, I could have used you as a sales person for our program because you've just described it, mate, which I couldn't appreciate more, the fact that it's personalized, holistic, inclusive, all of those things. But before you go, could you please just tell everybody who you help and how you help?
Yeah, so I work with men. They're normally in midlife, so kind of 35 plus. They're normally busy professionals, business owners and leaders. They're normally really successful. They've got everything the culture told them they should have. They've got the house, the car, the marriage, a successful career, or they're running a business. But like me, 5 years ago, internally, they're in pieces. They've got no meaning or fulfillment in their life. They're stressed. They're frustrated. They tend to know they want to change, Jamie, but they're a bit stuck. They just don't know what to do. And they've tried things. They've tried the ice baths and meditations and journaling, but nothing's stuck and nothing's worked. They've read a lot of, self-help books and listened to all the podcasts, but they've not been able to make lasting change. And that's what I help them do. I help them. So my unique coaching method is called the power shift. And that's about shifting your attention and your intention from the outside world to your inner world. Because what I learned from burning out and then rebuilding myself, that's where your power is, on your internal world. That's how you build mental strength and emotional resilience and all those nice things so you don't end up burnt out. So you can run successful businesses and you can also have a successful personal life where you're able to prioritize the things that matter to you, your family and your well-being.
Awesome, mate. Danny, thank you so much for coming on,
I've really enjoyed it, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me.